I never imagined my life would crumble in a single night. My best friend and fiancé shattered my world with a betrayal so public it still haunts me. 6 years of living in the shadows, planning, waiting for the perfect moment to strike back. Now it's my turn. They thought I was defeated, but they were wrong. I'm coming for everything they took from me. My dignity, my family, my life. This isn't just revenge, it's justice. I will make them regret the day they crossed me. And when I'm done, they'll wish they had never met me. It was a beautiful day for something special. I was with my friends and family enjoying the joyful event. Outside the happy group, there were some people watching, either sneaking peeks at us or looking on with envy, wishing they could join in the fun. My dad, Harrison Williams, sat at the top of the long table enjoying the moment. He had a big smile as he wrapped up a story that made everyone laugh. Many waiters hurried to take care of the different requests from the guests. One waiter skillfully set a third glass of Chardonnay in front of my mother, Tracy Williams. She gently touched the glass with her fingers while smiling at my father before looking at me. The pride and love on my mother's face made me feel happy and grateful. I thought about all the love and sacrifices my family made to help me get to this moment. I was about to step into a world I had dreamed of since I was a kid. It hadn't been easy. I worked hard to plan my college classes around my part-time job at the bank. On top of that, I also wanted to make time for my girlfriend. For 4 long years, I hurried from school to work. After work, I went home to study and talk about what my teachers taught me. I compared their ideas with what my father had learned from his real-life experiences. I had to be very careful not to upset my father as we talked about changes in the business. Harrison Williams believed in a simple saying, "If it's not broken, don't fix it." Still, I sometimes managed to get my dad to try new things. He would agree to give them a chance and see if they would make things better. Some ideas did not work at all. In those cases, we would spend a lot of time talking about what went wrong. Other times, an idea worked, but not as well as we wanted. When that happened, we would adjust it little by little to improve it. Once, a new idea turned out to be a big hit, and I had to hold back the urge to say, "I told you so." At the same time, I was honest with my teachers about which ideas worked well and which didn't, based on what I had seen. Some teachers were not happy about publicly talking about the problems in their business plans. Because of this, my grades showed some of that dislike, but I believed it was important to share the truth with my classmates. I wanted them to learn from the mistakes that I noticed. Even though my commitment to honesty kept me from graduating with high honors, I finished my degree. That was one of the reasons we were celebrating. Now that I had my business degree, I was ready to work with my father at our family bank, which had supported us for 6 generations. I could already picture the girl who would help bring our family into the next generation. Stacy Buckman was sitting next to me, chatting with her mother who sat across from us. Stacy and I had been friends for as long as I could remember. We went to school together and started dating in our senior year of high school. She even decided to go to the same college as me. Even though we didn't have much time together because of school and work, we kept our relationship strong. Our weekend dates were rare, but we made the best of it. I was excited about our future together. In that way, I felt like any other American guy. Now, 5 years into our relationship, I could finally start to count down to something special. I checked my pocket again to make sure the small box with the engagement ring was still there. After she said yes to my idea, Stacy and her family could start getting ready for the wedding. I paused for a moment to admire Stacy's appearance. She was small, with light blonde hair and striking hazel eyes that caught your eye. Her smile brightened up her sharp features and made everyone around her feel happy. She was smart, friendly, and interesting to talk to. Everyone in town seemed excited to have her join their families. I kept watching as Stacy burst into laughter at something her mom said. She absent-mindedly pushed a loose strand of hair away from her face. I thought about how I wanted to surprise her now that I would start working with my dad and make some good money while he taught me the ropes. I imagined trips to Hawaii, Christmas in London, and fun weekends at the beach together. We would also think about starting our family. I wanted a son and a daughter, but as long as the babies were healthy, that was all that mattered. I gently tapped Stacy for a quick word, and she smiled at me, giving my shoulder a friendly pat. She then joined in the talk with the others around her. I felt a little bothered by how relaxed she seemed, but I accepted it as part of the happy mood of our graduation day. I soon started chatting with Stacy's dad. Mr. Buckman asked me if I was going to join the group of men going on a hunting trip in Alaska. This group was made up of the most important people in town, like doctors, lawyers, and business folks. They all belonged to this close-knit circle. By inviting me, they showed that they wanted me to be part of their group. Many of these influential people were sitting at the dinner table tonight. They were there not just because of business reasons, but also because everyone respected the Williams and Buckmans in the community. My father had helped many people during his time as the president of the Camden Bank and Trust. My mother worked hard on many community projects to help those in need. The Buckmans did the same, giving generously to charities. Charles Buckman owned the family business and was the wealthiest man in Camden. He handled all his personal and business banking with my father. Now, with my upcoming engagement to Stacy, our two families would come together, creating a local legacy. It felt like the perfect ending, just like in a fairy tale. I thought about how happy Stacy and I would be together. Charles Buckman stood up from the table, holding his wine glass high. He waited for the chatter to quiet down so everyone could hear him. I want to thank all of you for being here tonight to celebrate. It seems like just yesterday that Stacy, Troy, and their classmates began their journey in school together. For all the crayon pictures that decorated our refrigerator, for all the hours I spent helping you with your schoolwork, and for all the times we came to your school events and cheered you on, Stacy, you have made your mom and me the happiest parents ever. We are so proud of you as you grow up and become an adult. I wish I could really show how much I love you, my child, he said with tears in his eyes. Stacy jumped up and ran to her father for a hug, and everyone clapped loudly. I love you and Mom a lot, Daddy, she said, her voice full of emotion. This made the audience clap again. Well, sweetheart, now it's time for the fun part. As a graduation gift, we are giving you 2 tickets for a free tour of Europe this summer. Stacy shouted with joy and hugged her mom and dad as they gave her a big envelope. I began to wonder if I could get that much time off from work. It didn't matter if I couldn't. I knew Stacy and a good friend would have an amazing time on this special trip. It would delay our wedding date, but it would give me time to save more money while Stacy enjoyed herself. I knew I had to act now, so I got up and walked over to Stacy. I reached into my pocket and held the small jewelry box in my hand. I stood by Stacy, and Mr. and Mrs. Buckman kindly stepped back, giving us some space. Stacy looked at me with a curious expression as I stood next to her. I began, I want to thank everyone for being here tonight to celebrate our graduation from college. While Mr. Buckman might think it all happened yesterday, it feels like it has taken a long time for me. This brought laughter from everyone in the room, but the best part of this journey was the amazing woman standing next to me. We drank milk from the same carton in 1st grade and got sent to the principal's office for passing notes in 6th grade, I said, raising an eyebrow. This made everyone laugh again. Finally, I got smart, I added. I asked her out to the homecoming dance my senior year in high school. After that, we both started college here. Even though school and my job took up a lot of my time, it made me value her even more. I turned to Stacy and gazed into her eyes. I really do appreciate you, Stacy. I've understood for a while how important you are to me. I have cared about you since the 1st grade. I understand how important you will be to me forever, and I want to always say, I love you. I slowly went down on one knee and showed her the ring box. I could see Stacy's eyes grow wide with surprise. Stacy Ellen Buckman, will you marry me? At that moment, everyone in the restaurant stopped and watched us. They all held their breath, waiting for Stacy to say something. I kept looking at her, and I could see the surprise on her face. Stacy looked nervously down the table, then back at me, and then back down the table again. As the silence stretched on, I started to feel uneasy. What I first thought was shock turned into worry. She glanced down the table once more, looking a bit lost. David, she said, and suddenly stood up, walking toward the front door. A chair slid back as someone hurried to follow her. The crowd, surprised, saw a person running after Stacy. He turned back for a moment to glance at me as he rushed past. It was David Porter, my best friend, and the one I wanted to ask to be my best man. I started to understand what was happening between Stacy and David, and everyone in the crowd shifted their focus to me, the one kneeling in shock. I carefully got to my feet and awkwardly put the ring box back into my pocket. I started to walk slowly to the back door. My thoughts were all over the place as I went down the steps away from the building. With tears in my eyes, I passed my car and began the long trip home. I sat at my desk while the morning sun filled my office with light. I turned my chair and sadly looked at the empty buildings falling apart in the town square. One of those worn-out buildings was where my proposal went wrong. 6 years had gone by since the embarrassing moment in front of everyone in town. 6 long years of being the target of jokes in Washington County. 6 long years of hearing whispers and snickers behind my back. The restaurant has changed. Stacy has moved ahead with her life. David has moved on too. The city has moved forward. The whole world seems to have forgotten. But I was still stuck, tied to the Camden Bank and Trust by family ties and what I needed. Then the intercom crackled to life. "Troy, Mrs. Fuller is here to see you." I felt a bit annoyed, but replied, "Please let her in." As the door started to open, I stood up from behind my desk and walked over. "Let me help you with that, Mrs. Fuller," I said, noticing the large box she was carrying. I hurried to take the box and put it on my desk, then helped Mrs. Fuller to her seat. "How are you today, Mrs. Fuller? Is there something you need help with?" "Oh, no, dear. I just wanted to bring you a big basket of special tomatoes from my garden. I still remember how much you enjoy them." Even though I was a bit nervous, I felt happier as I thought about all the times I spent in Mrs. Fuller's garden when I was young. I would help plant and dig up potatoes, onions, and peanuts. I would set up poles for the tomato plants. I remember watering the cantaloupes, honeydew melons, and watermelons. I also loved picking and preparing corn. Climbing apple, peach, and plum trees to pick their fruits was always a fun task. I realized that what used to feel like a joy now seemed like hard work. Sometimes I thought that maybe the world had it wrong. "Mrs. Fuller, would you like a drink?" "I'd love a glass of lemonade or sweet tea if you can manage it." "Of course. Miss Temple, could you help with that?" Mrs. Fuller couldn't see what was happening next. Janet Temple Fuller smiled at me and said, "Of course, Troy." Then she went to take care of her task. I settled into the chair next to Mrs. Fuller, as she was a very special customer. "Is there anything I can help you with today, Mrs. Fuller?" I asked. I noticed she hesitated. The kind old lady was trying to figure out how to share her problem. "Mr. Williams." "Troy, Mrs. Fuller. You can always call me Troy," I gently interrupted her. She smiled back, thankful. "Thank you, Troy. I have a problem. I need a personal loan of $20,000. Just then, Janet Temple walked into the office. She carried a tray with 2 glasses full of ice and a pitcher of lemonade. She poured the drinks and then quietly left the room. "I really need the loan, but I don't have anything to put up as security," Mrs. Fuller said, feeling embarrassed. "Could you tell me why you need the money, Mrs. Fuller?" "It's for my grandson. He's in his last year of college, but there was an issue with his student loan paperwork. I said I would help pay for his school until everything is sorted out." "How long do you need the money for?" I got ready for what I was about to say. "I can return it in a year, Troy. He will have everything fixed by then, and it will count towards your loan. He'll also get some money from a grant and pay me back. Plus, he should find a good job after he finishes school, so making payments won't be an issue." "This is for Paul, your daughter's oldest son?" "Do they still live in Seattle?" I asked, trying to remember Donna's son from the few times he came to see Mrs. Fuller. I thought about a crush I had on Donna a long time ago, but that was just a short-lived teenage dream. As we talked, I worked out the payment amounts, checking if the monthly costs would be okay for her. Once she said yes, I called Tom Jenkins in the loan department and told him to get the loan papers ready for Mrs. We spent the next 30 minutes chatting and enjoying our lemonade. After that, I took Mrs. Fuller to the loan department and asked Tom Jenkins to help her. Mrs. Fuller wanted to show her thanks. She said, "Thank you, Troy. You remind me of your father. Not many bankers would give out an unsecured loan these days." I smiled and replied, "Mrs. Fuller, your family has always been with us. I trust your word." "Keep sending me tomatoes, and maybe an apple pie," I said, and Mrs. Fuller chuckled, saying she'd bring one tomorrow. I went back to my office and saw Janet Temple working with the tomatoes. "What are you doing with my tomatoes?" I asked her. "Troy, we're going to have BLT sandwiches for dinner tonight," she replied. "Who is this we you're talking about, Miss Temple?" I said with a playful grin. I stepped closer to her, enjoying the chance to tease her a little. "Oh, just some friends," she said with a smile. "It was a fun chat, and I wanted to keep it going." "You gave her a loan without much security, didn't you?" She smiled at me. "And you made the interest lower, so we won't really earn anything from it." "Yes, I did, Janet." "That's Miss Temple when you talk to me, Troy," she said, gently correcting me. "If you keep believing every sad story you hear, you won't last in this business." "If that happens, I'll just take my tomatoes and find work elsewhere." "Our tomatoes," Janet said, fixing me with a look. "They're my tomatoes," I said back. I heard a light laugh from my office. That night, we ended up having bacon, lettuce, and tomato sandwiches for dinner at my apartment. As the sun started to rise, I woke up and moved around to get ready for my morning run. After putting on my running clothes, I gave Janet a light kiss on the top of her head. This made her smile as she slowly stretched awake. "Why don't you come back to bed and get your exercise here?" she suggested. "Don't tempt me," I replied with a grin. "Are you going to take a shower here or at home?" "Why do you want to know?" "Because I don't want to hop in the shower and find out it's freezing cold because you used all the hot water," I said. "I can wait for you," Janet offered. I stopped for a moment. "No." She made a sad face. "Well, I guess I should head home and get ready for work," she said with a sigh while picking up her things from the floor. "When will you start leaving some clothes here, Janet?" I asked her. It would make things easier. "Oh, Troy, let's not talk about that again. You go enjoy your run, I'll take a quick shower, and I'll meet you at work," she said, trying to cheer me on as she got ready. I got ready to run with some warm-up stretches. I glanced up at my apartment. Not many people can say they lived where they worked. Even fewer have lived in a big 3-story bank building that takes up a whole city block. Every morning, just like before, I looked at the building's beautiful design. The strong granite stone and the tall, straight columns at the front made it look impressive. My ancestor was the one who built the first real building in this small town. He thought carefully about the kind of look he wanted to create. People felt hopeful and secure, which made them want to create new things. They followed the bank's design closely, and the city square once showed off wealth, jobs, and businesses. But that was in the past, I thought sadly, as I stared at the crumbling buildings of the empty square. Now, my bank stood alone, the last place of support in this fading city. The last memory of the past filled with sadness. As I ran, the steady rhythm of my footsteps and breathing was the only sound in the stillness. This was my time to be alone, a time to think and concentrate. What troubled me most was the bank, Camden Bank and Trust. It faced attacks from enemies both close and far away. I needed to stay alert every day since I had become the president of the bank. One wrong move could cost me everything I had worked for and all my father had built. It felt like there were so many choices to make, and no one to help me. Once again, I felt completely alone as I finished my run and climbed the stairs to my apartment on the 3rd floor. People were counting on me. I got into the shower. Just moments later, the warm water turned cold. I had another issue to talk to Janet about, I thought as I hurried to take a shower. By 9 in the morning, I was sitting at my desk ready to start the day at the bank. In truth, I had been busy since 7 a.m., working hard to set up important arrangements for the bank. If everything went right, I expected the day to stay just as busy. At 9:25 a.m., the intercom rang. "Mr. Williams, you have some guests," Janet said. There was something unusual in her voice that made me cautious. Why hadn't she said who was coming to see me? A tiny voice in my head told me to turn them away, saying that my busy work schedule meant I couldn't accept any visitors today. I realized I had waited too long to answer. Finally, I told her to let the visitors come into my office. The door opened, and in walked Carla Robbins, Susan Moix, and Stacy Ellen Porter. It was the first time in 6 years that I saw Stacy up close. Time had been kind to her. She had grown up from being a girl to a young woman. "Hi, Troy," she said, trying to get my attention. I waved my arm toward the chairs on the other side of the desk. The 3 women quickly took their seats, and I settled in behind my desk. How are you, Carla, Susan, Mrs. Porter? What can I help you with today? Stacy noticed the coldness in my reply. There was no warmth in my greeting, no hint that time had made me want to forget old hurt feelings. She saw that I was looking at her high school friends who were with her. Please, Troy, I'm still Stacy. I would like you to call me by my name, she said. I'll remember that, Mrs. Porter. How can I help you today? I replied. It's been 10 years since we finished high school, Troy. We are on the reunion planning team, trying to get support for the reunion, Susan explained. I stayed quiet. I learned in my job that being quiet can be a good way to negotiate. Even though this wasn't a usual business deal, the same ideas still worked. Well, Troy? Susan asked, sounding annoyed. I'm sorry, Susan. I didn't hear anything that needs my input. Susan took a deep breath. Can you help and lead the committee, Troy? I took a moment before I answered. Susan, isn't it usual for the senior class president to lead the reunion committee? Susan paused, sensing where this was going. Yes, Troy, but remind me, Carla. I looked at the woman I had interrupted. Who was our class president? David Porter. That's right, Carla. It seems like you're talking to the wrong person. David already said he wouldn't join the committee, Troy, Stacy said. I didn't show that I had heard Stacy or that I planned to answer. We could really use your help, Troy, Carla said nicely. I get it, Carla, but since I won't be at the reunion, I don't think I need to be on your committee. I pressed the button on the intercom. Ms. Temple, could you please come in? I noticed that the 3 people in front of me looked worried. They were trying hard to convince me to join them. Before I said anything, Janet Temple entered the office. Miss Temple, please take our guests out of my office. I'm sorry, but I have to go now. I have something important to do. Troy, you really should come to the reunion. It's important to your friends, Carla said one last time. I looked back at my 3 friends. Before I go, I want to share a short story about debts, I said. A woman walks into a bar. As soon as she sits down, a man approaches her. Excuse me, madam, he says. I just want to let you know that I am one of the wealthiest men in the world. I'm so amazed by you that I'm ready to give you $10 million just to spend 1 hour together. At first, the woman is shocked by the offer, but then she thinks about all the things she could do with $10 million. Okay, I will spend an hour with you for that amount, she says. Then the man asks, would you spend time with me for $5? Now the woman feels very insulted. $5? What do you think I am? She shouts at him. We already know the answer to that, he replies. Now, we are only talking about the price. Do you see what owing means in that story? I asked my classmates. Let me give you a clearer example. Picture someone who believes they've met the right person, but then they feel sad when she picks someone else. What do you think he believes he deserves? A chance to talk again and try once more? There was a hush, and everyone looked at me with cold stares. I stepped out of the back door of my office to skip the uncomfortable moment of shaking hands. I heard Stacy calling after me, asking me to stop, but I didn't want to turn around. I walked through my apartment, looking out the windows to see if my guests were leaving. Then, I heard the door open and Janet coming closer. I turned to her and said, Please don't do that again if you want to keep your job. Do you get what I'm saying? She looked surprised by how tense I sounded. I'm really sorry, Troy. I didn't know how to deal with that, she said, sounding sorry. Look, you need to find a better way to handle it if they come back again. They didn't say who they were. They just said they were your friends from high school, she argued. I took a moment to breathe and calm myself, but things still felt tight between us. Are they gone now? I asked, glancing out one of the windows. I saw Janet nod to show she agreed. I could tell she felt hurt from what I had said earlier as she nodded yes, unable to speak. Then it's time to get back to work, I said in a sharp tone, leaving the apartment to go back to my office. Janet stayed behind for a moment to collect herself before heading back to her desk. When it was time to go home, I found myself alone in my apartment all night. This happened for 2 weeks while Janet concentrated on her work. One Thursday afternoon, just before we closed, Janet walked into my office, tears in her eyes. Will you ever forgive me? She asked, her voice shaking. I went over to her and hugged her as she began to cry. We went upstairs and I tried hard to fix the pain between us. By Friday morning, everything felt normal again. On Saturday, we spent the morning enjoying time together. While we were talking, she asked, "Why do you dislike her so much? Why can't you let it go?" I knew she meant someone specific. I thought about whether I should tell her it was not her concern. I sighed. "You've been here for 4 years, Janet, so you don't know everything. I'm going to share this with you just this once. After this, I won't talk about it again. Is that a deal?" She looked at me with her big brown eyes and nodded seriously. You know about what happened with me and her. I really embarrassed myself at my graduation party when I asked her to be with me. I'm sure you've heard that story many times in this town. The way she looked at me showed that I was right. Even after 6 years, people still laughed at me all over town. By now, my actions were well known in the town, and people talked about them a lot. You have to see that we all grew up together, played together, and went to school together. I stopped and thought for a moment before saying their names. David and Stacy were my best friends since we were little. Stacy loved to pretend we were a family, and we shared many pretend meals of pie, soda, cake, ice cream, and candy. One day I imagined myself as the father and David as our child. The next day it was the other way around, David as the father and me as his child. Stacy, as usual, played the mother role and told us what to do. As we grew up, David and I entered a phase where we thought girls were not for us, and we tried to stay away from Stacy. At first, Stacy felt sad about this, but then she began spending time with her friends. David and I shared a bond that was as strong as brothers. Every day we visited each other's homes to play baseball, go to Boy Scouts, or play football. There was always something fun happening with us. As I thought about those times, I couldn't help but smile at the good memories. But that smile faded as I carried on with the story. We kept seeing each other. Our parents often met at the country club for parties and events. Of course, since we were in the same grade, we had the same classes and teachers. Then in junior high school, everything changed for the girls. They began to grow and change in ways we hadn't seen before. But like every teenage boy, and really all boys who like girls, we started to pay attention to these girls we had always overlooked. They were not going to make things easy for us boys, so we ended up doing little favors for them, like carrying their books or telling them when another boy liked them. That's how it went for me and David. We started looking at Stacy differently, and, surprise, we both liked her. Even bigger surprise, we didn't want the other to win her over. And the biggest surprise, Stacy chose David. Even at that young age, being turned down hurt a lot, but I got over it. I began to date while still keeping my friends David and Stacy close. As time passed, Stacy and David's relationship ended. David started seeing other people, and this was hard for Stacy. A week before homecoming, she asked me to take her to the dance. I told David about it. He said he was fine with it and didn't want to get back together with her. So we started going out, and we both began to like each other more and more. I began to help her with things that weren't about dating. I helped her with her homework and washed her car. These were just little kind gestures. I also tried to know her parents more. I visited them and often played chess with her dad. Buckman often talked about his interests, mostly about business, especially his company, Buckman's Enterprises. He often said things like, "In business, strong ones take advantage of the weak," or "Treat others how you want to be treated." I listened closely, hoping to impress him. As college got closer, Stacy understood that I was focused on our future. We had discussed getting engaged and marrying for quite some time. She knew I would be ready once we finished school, so this didn't catch her off guard. I thought she would have seen it coming. I found it hard to explain a situation that confused me. "She even chose the ring," I said, glancing at Janet, hoping she would understand. Janet nodded and gave my arm a gentle pat, showing me she was with me. Taking a deep breath, I went on. "I don't know when David came back into the story. I had no idea that she and David were together again. If she had just told me, maybe I wouldn't be in this situation now. Maybe none of this would have happened. But I kept seeing her at school every day and spending weekends with her, clueless about what was happening. Then, one day, I was caught off guard in front of everyone. People were talking about Stacy and David's relationship. I never thought about how Stacy felt. I was just happy that she chose to go to Europe with him as a gift for finishing school. She went away with him, visiting different cities, while I stayed back in Camden with a broken heart. Each day I had to gather my strength and go to work, acting like everything was fine and that no one knew what was wrong. When Stacy and David came back, they quickly planned a small wedding to silence all the talk about them. After that, they moved to another state until things calmed down. Stacy and David got jobs at one of Charles Buckman's companies in California until things calmed down. At the same time, Charles Buckman was very angry because I had put his daughter and family in a place where people made fun of them. What I did affected many people. The town was divided on who was at fault for the mess, and sadly, Charles Buckman wasn't going to just sit back and let anyone talk badly about his daughter. He came to see me and my dad at the bank and pointed the finger directly at me. He then told us that he thought our town needed another bank to break what he called our grip on the community. He was there to take out his money and put it in a new bank across town called Buckman's Savings and Loans. My father tried to talk him out of it, knowing that this would hurt our bank. But Charles Buckman was firm in his decision. He took out his money, leaving my father to rush and find other ways to pay his bills. News got out that the bank was in trouble, and my father had to talk to lenders without any strength on his side. Business lenders asked for very high interest rates, which he had no choice but to agree to in order to keep the bank running. Each day turned into a fight just to keep things going. But Charles Buckman wasn't done yet. He made sure all the workers at Buckman's Industry received their paychecks from Buckman's Savings and Loans. He pushed them to open accounts there for direct deposits, debit cards, and credit cards. He also offered car loans and home loans at rates my father couldn't compete with because we were having money troubles. Because of this, many customers started leaving. Buckman's ATM machines took the place of ours in local shops, and he urged local businesses to switch to his place across town. This caused problems in the city square, making fewer people visit our bank and hurting our money situation even more. Every day, I worked with my father, trying to make up for the mistake that started all these issues. I convinced my father to let me buy and sell stocks, hoping it would help fix our financial problems. I had some wins, but troubles kept coming. My dad was the head of the bank. The bank had been in our family for a long time, which meant he had to answer to many relatives. They started to worry about losing money while he was in charge. Soon, some distant relatives began suing him. They wanted to take over the bank from my dad. He fought hard every day, and I stood by him through it all. The pressure grew too heavy for my mom. She was shunned by everyone in town, and it hurt her health. Her blood pressure went up a lot, and soon she had a stroke. My dad changed after that. He gave me the daily work at the bank while he took care of my mom. I would come home and see him worrying about her, only talking about the bank when he had a moment. She died 2 months later. After that, my dad was very sad and lost. 3 weeks after she passed away, he had a heart attack. In less than a year, I lost everything I loved. Now, I had to take charge of the bank. I wasn't ready for this job, but it was given to me. I looked for every coin I could find, but many people wanted me to fail. Among them was Charles Buckman, who wanted to take control of the bank's money. The stress was enormous. At one time, I had to sell my parents' house and my own home to save the bank. That was when I moved into the bank building. All our business renters had moved to Buckman's building, so I could choose any space I wanted. I made one area into a kitchen and put in a bathroom, but the rest of the place was just empty space. I had to turn off the building's boiler to save on energy costs. That's why I find it hard to take a hot shower. The whole building gets hot water from a home water heater. Now you see why I'm staying in a big, empty place with cold water. As for dealing with the bank every day, you have some idea of my challenges. Since the first day I started, I've been working hard to keep the bank running. I've had to take some big chances with money trading and betting on quick changes in the market. I know that if anyone finds out about the bank's weak spot, we could be in real trouble. I've also had to give loans to businesses that no other bank would want to help. And you know about the financial reports, how I am showing some made-up numbers to make the bank look safe. But the real reports show just how much trouble I'm in. If the examiners find those papers, I'm done for and could end up in jail. That's why the Sorrent oil field project is so important to me. I've been working on this deal every day for the last 2 years. If I can make it happen, I'll be okay again. I can pay back the bank and its lenders, stop juggling money between people, and finally keep my records clear without worrying about what will happen next. Knowing things is very important, Janet. That's why I have all those files in my desk drawers. I have to be one step ahead of everything Charles Buckman does to try to take me down. Do you think I enjoy keeping secret files on him, Stacy and David? I have to do it to make sure I don't miss anything important. Think about it. I have to watch over the woman who hurt me and my old best friend, and I despise it, but I have to keep doing it. I finally stopped for a moment, surprised at myself for talking about this with someone. I felt a weight lift off my shoulders after sharing my feelings. Janet smiled at me, happy that I had shared my feelings with her. "But Troy," she said, "are you really sure you can handle this Sorrent oil deal? Aren't you worried about working with an oil deposit in Siberia?" "Janet, as I told you before, my friends in France have done all the important work to make this happen. Once the oil wells find the deposit, they will refine the oil at a plant that we will build by the Bering Sea. After that, ships will bring it to the West Coast ports in the United States and take it off the boats. Because it takes less time and travel compared to supplies from the Middle East, this could make a lot of money. It's as close to a sure thing as you can get. The only downside is that many people are becoming interested in it, which always happens. You can never keep it completely secret. The price of Sorrent oil shares has been rising quickly lately, which means someone knows something good about it. I'm almost ready to own most of the stock, and when that happens, I can call the shots and make things successful. I just need to stay involved, no matter how high the stock price climbs, I said. Then I can be free from the Buckmans. I can buy out the rest of my family and put an end to all the lawsuits. I can make sure the bank is safe. And I can finally move on from David and Stacy and begin to enjoy my life again. I'm ready, Janet. I'm ready to settle down with someone and spend my future together. When I looked straight at her, she understood what I was saying. Her eyes grew wide and she paused for a moment. She stepped back from me and observed as I tried to gather myself. Even with everything happening, I still felt a sense of disappointment. I knew I needed to keep going. I chose to continue our talk, hoping to bring back some sense of normal. We talked about everyday things, but the tension between us was still there. After a while, she said she had to go visit her mother for a night. We arranged to meet again on Sunday evening. After she went away, I worked on messages with people from another country online. Then, I felt like going for a run in the afternoon. When I went outside to stretch and get ready, I noticed her leaning against my old pickup truck. I really wanted to avoid talking to her, but I thought it would be best to just face it. As I got closer, she stood up straight and said, "I didn't think you were ever going to come out today, Troy." "What would you have done if I hadn't come?" I asked. "I would have come back tomorrow and waited," she answered. "And if I don't show up tomorrow? Then I would have gone to your office and waited all day, even if you didn't want to see me. Everyone in town would have a good laugh about it," she said clearly. "Well, I'm glad I'm here so you don't have to feel awkward in front of everyone," I said, feeling a bit annoyed. Her face looked hurt by my words, but she kept talking. "Troy, I just want to say that I made a mistake. I messed up big time and I hurt you. That was never what I wanted." She looked at me with sad eyes. "Troy, you caught me off guard and I freaked out. You don't understand how much pressure a proposal puts on someone. Everyone was watching and I had to answer right there in front of everyone." I cut in. "No, Stacy, it's not that simple. We talked about this a lot. You even showed me the ring you liked. Don't just stand there telling me how I surprised you and made you feel awkward. I wasn't the one who bolted out the door with David Porter right behind me," I shouted, my voice getting louder. "Yes, Troy, I did run, and David followed me. We acted like scared kids and took off to Europe. But then I thought about it and saw how much I had messed things up. HTTP code 500 from API, 500 internal server error, 500 internal server error jinx. Before I knew it, I was married to David and sent far away until my dad decided we could come back. My marriage was a wrong choice, Troy. David never really cared about me. He only liked the thought of being Charles Buckman's son-in-law. He thought it was funny to try to win me over while hiding it from you. After that night, he felt he had to support me. But he never cared for me like that, Troy. If he did, he wouldn't be looking for other women every night. That is, if he can pull himself away from my dad. David has taken on a big role in Dad's life, and my dad really enjoys it. Nothing is too good for his son, David. she said with a hint of sarcasm. Stacy shut her eyes and said, "If I could find a way to ease your hurt, I would. My choices took away my best friend, and I know I can never have him back. It cost me the man I cared about more than anything. I tried to keep my cool and not let my feelings show, but inside I was struggling. I had known this woman for a long time, so I knew she could easily upset me. But I needed to stay strong and push her out of my life. Yes, Stacy, you can fix the hurt. But please tell me how to move on from losing you. How do I get over losing both my parents in just 1 month? Tell me how I keep going each day, even with your father and your husband trying to bring me down. Tell me how I can move past being pushed away, kicked out of the country club and every group in town. Tell me how I can ever sleep well without waking up scared from the dreams you've given me." My harsh words affected her deeply, and I noticed tears gather in her eyes. I knew I had to get away or be stuck in this cycle of hurt and wanting. "Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm going to go for my run and try to forget about you all over again." She nodded, looking like she was barely hanging on, and I turned away from her, getting ready to take my first step. I almost stumbled when she cried, "Okay, Troy, I tried my best, and now I'll deal with what comes next. Just one more thing, I wish you would think again about not going to the reunion tonight. You have many friends in our class who would be happy to see you, and even those who aren't your biggest fans would see that you are brave." I tried to ignore her last comment as I started to run. Running used to be my escape. It was the last calm thing in my life, but now I could hardly make it a mile before I had to stop at a park bench. Out of sight, I let the tears flow. I knew then that even if I lived a long time, I would always remember Stacy. I stayed there for the rest of the afternoon, thinking about what to do next. I glanced at the big country club building. It was the biggest sign of privilege in the whole town. Only the wealthy and influential were allowed inside. Everyone else was not welcome. But on special days, like a high school reunion, it gave a quick look into a life they would never experience. I walked by some classmates, amazed by the beauty around us, and waved hello. Even though I had not seen them in 6 years, I didn't feel curious about them anymore. I walked down the clean hallway with its soft carpet, nice vases, and pretty paintings. Everything felt fancy as I made my way to the banquet room. At the door, there was a table with the Camden High Tigers logo on it. My classmate, Susan Moyes, was sitting behind the table. I had seen her last at my office when she tried to get me to help with the reunion. She looked surprised when I came closer. "Troy Williams," I said, acting like she needed a reminder of who I was. "I didn't sign up, so I guess I'll have to pay the late fee, right, Susan?" She looked a bit nervous as she took my money and replied, "It will only take a minute, Troy." Susan started typing fast on her laptop. I stood to the side while she helped other students who had registered early. They got their name tags and goodie bags before heading into the banquet hall. Some of my classmates greeted me, while others didn't seem to notice me at all. It still felt awkward in the hallway. The laptop printer finally printed my simple badge, and Susan put it into a weak plastic holder. It looked very different from the nice laminated badges on the table. I attached the badge to my shirt and took the gift bag from Susan. I looked inside to see what was in it. I didn't see anything special that I needed, so I placed my bag on top of some other bags near a trash can as I walked into the banquet room. Maybe I was just being too careful, but it felt like the chatter quieted down when I stepped inside. Not wanting to think about it too much, I headed straight for the bar. I quickly spent $10 on a gin and tonic, which seemed too expensive. After trying the drink, I almost wished I could give it back because the gin didn't taste good. I walked away, holding my drink in front of me to avoid talking to others. This helped keep most of my classmates away. A few still tried to chat with me, and even though the first things we said felt a bit strange, I started to enjoy talking to my old friends when David and Stacy came in. David stood out in a business suit while the rest of us were dressed casually, which was what the event called for. From the very start, he wanted everyone to see that he was better than them. He looked down on everyone with a cold attitude, like he thought he was special because he learned from Charles Buckman. Stacy, however, wore a plain black dress. As soon as she walked in, her female classmates gathered around her. They insisted she come and dance with them. I saw David trying to say something, but she didn't listen. Instead, she took the spotlight on the dance floor. The fun of dancing pulled in many of our classmates, and they began to enjoy the music too. When the song ended, she went back to David. I noticed him say something that she didn't seem to like. A new song began, and Stacy tried to get David to join her on the dance floor. He held back until she decided to stay close to him, watching the dance while her friends pulled her back out onto the floor. For the rest of the evening, there was a curious mix of a sad Stacy next to David and a cheerful Stacy dancing with her friends. Even though she was often with her girlfriends dancing, whenever someone came over to ask her to dance, they would check with David first. He would always say no until they moved on. Stacy seemed more and more embarrassed by how he was acting as the dancing went on. The awkwardness between them grew, and fewer classmates wanted to ask her to dance because they didn't want to make things worse. Then Stacy looked at me from across the room. Without waiting for anyone's approval, she stepped away from David and came over to me. Everyone was watching as she reached out and said, "Will you dance with me?" David glared at us, but I felt brave enough to say yes. I followed Stacy as she held my hand, guiding me to the dance floor. "I thought you said you wouldn't come to the reunion?" "I wasn't going to, but I heard I would really regret it if I stayed away." Stacy laughed softly at what I said as a slow song began to play. Her eyes grew wide when I wrapped my arms around her, and we started to move gently to the slow music that had been popular 10 years ago when we were in our last year of high school. As we danced, I felt her hand slide up my arm. She stepped a little closer, and we swayed gently with our classmates on the busy dance floor. The smell of her shampoo and perfume filled the air around me. I closed my eyes and enjoyed the moment, feeling comforted by how well I knew her. Then, I noticed that the music had stopped and the lights got brighter for a faster song. I had been so caught up in my thoughts that I hardly realized what was happening. I heard laughter close by, so I turned to see Fred Carter down on one knee, pretending to ask someone to marry him. Everyone around him was giggling. I pulled away from Stacy and walked over to him. When I got near, Fred got up and looked worried. The laughter started to fade as I approached, and I could feel the mood changing. I raised my voice so everyone could hear, "Fred, do you remember the time in our second year when you and your family visited my house?" Fred's eyes got big and he looked nervous, hoping I would stop. "Your mom was really worried, and you and your sister looked sad too. Do you remember what she said to my dad? How she talked about your dad's problems? She was asking for help, remember? Do you recall what my dad did? He took your dad to a place for help that night? Do you remember the way my family helped yours during that hard time? My parents even brought food to make sure you had what you needed. Do you remember how my dad worked hard to help your family when things were rough? You and your dad even promised to do anything for us to say thank you. Well, keep that in mind when you choose to say something hurtful to me." I said it with a sharp tone, glancing at the crowd. I could tell stories about other people here tonight too. But really, none of you are worth the hassle. I looked around, daring anyone to respond, but no one spoke up. I turned and began to head toward the door, making sure everyone would remember our 10th reunion. As I stepped through the parking lot, I heard footsteps quickly coming up behind me. I already knew who it was chasing after me. I stopped, realizing there was no point in trying to get away. I ran my hands through my hair as she walked over to me. I could only watch as she got closer. "What's wrong?" she asked, noticing I wasn't saying anything. "I was just thinking about how pretty you are and how hard it is for me to let go," I said. "You don't have to let go," she said softly. "I really need to," I insisted. "It's going to take time, Stacy, but I'll be all right in the end." "Please don't say that," she begged. "I feel this way every day, too." I felt scared and confused back then. She held my arms gently. "When we went out on our first date, you knew what happened with David," she said. "You knew and still decided to be with me. What makes you different from him?" "I never lied to you. I always told you how I felt. Whenever you asked me why I stayed with him, even when he didn't treat me well, I would say it was because I loved him. I often reminded you of that, Troy. But you always came back to me. Each time you looked at me, your eyes would shine when I was near. Troy, do you know how much that meant to me? You were so kind to me. I began to see that I was falling for you. I didn't like how David treated me, but I felt torn. You made sure to spend every moment you could with me. You helped me with my homework, washed my car, and just liked being together. You even spent time with my dad to make him happy. I wish I had $1 for every chess game I saw you lose to him or for each story I heard about his work. David kept letting me down, and soon I felt like I was being disloyal to him because of you. You kept asking me to go out, and I started to think that maybe we could be more than friends, leaving David behind. But it still hurt to see him with other girls. One reason David and I had problems was that he kept pushing me. When I said no, he looked for attention from other girls, and that made me very angry. You never forced me to choose, which helped me feel calm and take my time. I really liked you. We didn't hurry into anything. We just enjoyed our time together. If you had ever pushed me, I was scared it could change everything. But I always wondered why David just let me go. Why didn't he try harder to keep me? How could he let me be with you? Then we started college, full of hopes for our future. We talked about getting married and having a family. While you dreamed about what was ahead, I was still confused about my feelings. Out of the blue, David got in touch with me and asked if we could try again. I felt stuck between both of you. On one side, there was Mr. Serious, always working hard and loyal. On the other side was Mr. Fun, easygoing and full of surprises. It may sound ordinary, but both of you made me feel whole. When everything went wrong that night, I got scared and ran away, which hurt you. I was so embarrassed by what I did that I just kept running. I traveled to Europe and then to California after marrying David, and my father cut ties with me. No matter where I went, I couldn't stop thinking about you. I knew I had to come back and talk to you. I owe you that much. My life isn't what I dreamed it would be. I really dislike my marriage with David. I can't stand that he keeps letting me down. Back in high school, I could count on you. Now I feel alone, Troy. I know I should be with you. I made a mistake, and I want to fix it, Troy. Yes, but things are very different for both of us, Stacy. The next day after you hurt me, you were still with David. And the day after that, and the day after that. You didn't come back to me. I feel trapped in a situation I didn't want, waking up every day knowing the woman I love is with someone else. Can't you see, Stacy? You've made your choice. The way things are, we can never be together, so please let me go. My words touched her heart, and I saw tears in her eyes. I was starting to pull my arms away. I just need to walk away, Stacy. Tonight was a mistake. But she found the courage to hold my wrist, looking up at me with a strong gaze. Now try to walk away. As we stood there, caught in the moment, I couldn't ignore the bond we had. Time had changed us, but some things felt just like before. Please, Stacy, we need to stop this, I said, trying to keep my calm. She went on sharing her feelings, and I felt myself getting pulled toward her, even though I tried to stay firm. But deep down, I knew we were on shaky ground. Stacy, I can't. If I let this happen, it would be a mistake. You need to find out what you really want. We have a lot of past problems that we can't just ignore. Your father wouldn't agree, and in the end, we would only hurt each other. I'm tired of feeling this way, Stacy. You need to know that I will always care about you. But if we take this path tonight, it will make things more complicated. I need some kind of ending. I could feel her sadness, and we held each other, searching for a way to move on. But then, in front of David, things got out of hand. The moment I stepped back, he reacted and hit me hard. I lost my balance, confused by the sudden attack. Feeling lost, I saw Stacy step in to stop David from hurting me again, while I tried to collect my thoughts. Luckily, some of David's friends, including Fred Carter, came outside too. Fred looked at me with a mean grin. They all helped Stacy hold David back, so he couldn't hurt me anymore. David kept yelling at me, making threats, until they finally pulled him away. I stayed on the ground as my sickness and dizziness slowly went away. I moaned a little as I finally got back on my feet. A funny idea popped into my head. No one would forget this 10th reunion. I hobbled home, feeling hurt both inside and out, trying hard not to break down. I slowly climbed the stairs and headed to the fridge. I grabbed some ice wrapped in a dishcloth and pressed it to the sore spot on my body. That was just the pain in my body. Nothing could ease the hurt I felt inside. I felt odd. My body didn't seem to listen to what I wanted it to do. Then I noticed something warm running down my neck. I finally got my hand up there, and with a little dizziness, I saw blood on my fingers. After what felt like forever, I was able to call 911 on my phone and told them what happened. I was scared I might have a concussion from David's blow, so I tried my best to stay awake until the ambulance came. But even with my efforts, I fainted when they arrived and took me to the hospital. The doctors and nurses were busy checking my symptoms and trying to figure out what was wrong. I told them someone and I had a fight, and that was all I said. They agreed that I had a concussion. They thought I might also have some damage inside my ear, but they believed it would get better on its own without any problems. The result was that I would stay overnight for monitoring in case my health changed. The next morning, 2 people came to see me, the Camden police chief and the detective captain. When I saw them, I thought they were there to ask me about who had hurt me, so I got ready for that conversation. They caught me off guard with their questions. They didn't want to know who I had a disagreement with. Instead, they wanted to know where I was after it happened. They asked when I called for help and if anyone was with me before the ambulance came. I told them to check with the ambulance service and the hospital for my timeline. I also said that if they had more questions, they could ask my lawyer. Both men left looking unhappy. Usually, I would have been ready to help the police, but the way they acted made me worried. I learned the reason for their behavior pretty quickly. The hospital was busy with the news that Stacy Porter was in the emergency room and had been moved to the intensive care unit. Someone had hurt her badly, and she was in a deep sleep from the injuries and the medicine given to her. I tried to visit her, but the hospital staff quickly turned me away. I felt very frustrated because I didn't know what was going on. I was sure that my attempts to see her would stir up gossip. I had to stay in the hospital a few more days because the doctor wanted to make sure my concussion was healing well. During this time, I noticed 2 things. First, I hadn't heard anything from Janet, my future fiancée. I figured she must have heard about the scene at the country club and was really angry with me. Then, I had the bad luck of seeing David Porter. When I turned around, I saw him in my doorway, a smug smile on his face, clearly enjoying my trouble. I kept watching him as he smiled about his surprise move. "David, I see why you wanted to talk to me, but why did you have to hurt Stacy?" I asked. His grin got wider as he said, "Hurt her? I don't know what you're talking about." "The only person who would want to hurt Stacy is you, David. What will you do when Charles Buckman steps in?" "Don't worry about that, Troy. He and I have an agreement, and the police know what to do. An unknown person is behind Stacy's attack. Once Stacy gets better, she will go back to California to live with her sister. Charles Buckman and I will keep doing our work, pushing you out of town like a stray dog." I shook my head sadly. "Is it true that Charles Buckman hates me that much? Would he really let you hurt his daughter and then blame me for it? He can't stand being around you. You are always bringing shame to his family. What you and Stacy did at the school reunion was just the final straw. He fully supported my decision to discipline Stacy." "David, I can kind of see why he dislikes me. But what did I ever do to you that made you hate me so much?" My question seemed to surprise David. For a quick moment, the anger in his eyes changed to a hint of uncertainty as he looked for a reply. "Mr. Perfect. Mr. I think I'm better than everyone," he replied angrily. "You thought I would just stand by and let you be with Stacy?" "You didn't let anything happen," I shot back. "You broke up with her and I said I wanted to ask her out. You didn't mind that." "Well, guess what, jerk? I had a change of heart and realized I wanted her in my life again. I tried my best to win her back. Buckman is excited to talk about the future of your family's business. He thinks there are new opportunities to explore and wants to hear your ideas about working together." I nodded, thankful for the heads up. This meeting was important and I needed to focus and stay clear-headed. As we got to the study, Thomas Clark held the door open for me. I walked in and paused for a moment to gather my thoughts before talking to Charles Buckman. There was no way to change my mind now. This meeting could change the future of my family's name and my own dreams. Charles Buckman was already in the room, looking through some papers on the table. When he saw me, he looked up with a careful smile that seemed friendly but thoughtful. "Ah, Mr. Harrison," he said. "Please, have a seat. I'm glad you could come so quickly." "Thank you for having me, Mr. Buckman," I said as I sat down in the chair across from him. Buckman leaned back, thinking hard, while he tapped a pen on the piles of papers in front of him. "Your family has a rich history in this town. And I think we can use that history to help us both. There are chances coming up that could help both of us grow." As he spoke, my mind was busy. This wasn't just a friendly chat. It was the start of a promise that could change everything I was trying to achieve. "I'm ready to hear any ideas you have," I said calmly. "What do you see happening?" Buckman smiled, his eyes shining with excitement. "Let's look at some plans that can help us use our resources and reputation better. The market is changing and we must adjust. If we work together, we can not only get by, but also succeed." We spent the next hour talking about different ideas, plans, and the economy, with each thought adding to the next. I started to see the chance for a real partnership that could help us both. When the meeting ended, I felt refreshed and ready to take action. This was a new beginning, a chance to change the story of my family's history. Buckman's excitement was contagious, and I saw that this partnership could lead to new opportunities. "Thank you for your time, Mr. Buckman," I said as I got up to leave. He nodded with a pleased smile. "I think this is the start of a good teamwork, Mr. Harrison. Let's stay in contact." As I walked back into the hallway, I felt both nervous and excited. The future still felt unclear, but for the first time in a long time, it seemed like there was a way ahead. "Harry, Troy, if I can help you with anything after tonight?" I was moved by how kind he was. "Thank you, Thomas. That really means a lot to me," I replied as we walked into the study. The mood in the study of the country club showed a strong history of men in charge. Women could enter the room, but history made it feel like they were not really welcome. The big room had walls covered with hunting trophies. There were also many pictures showing different trips and adventures. For a moment, I wished to check if any of the pictures were from the trips my father had gone on. I could smell the rich scent of fancy cigars mixed with the smell of hickory and oak wood burning in the large stone fireplace. Lights and shadows flickered on the soft leather chairs and couches. The shiny wooden furniture looked even better with sparkling crystal bottles filled with different drinks. Shelves held rare first editions of famous books, many signed by their writers. A big globe in one corner showed its age with blank spaces and names of lost places. In the middle of the room stood my rival, Charles Buckman. David Porter, my son-in-law, stood nearby like a quiet warning. He stared at me, almost waiting for a nod from his father. I remembered how scared I had felt years before when I was with Stacy. I had put up with many of Charles's jokes and teasing during our chess games while I waited for Stacy to get ready for our outings. His happy checkmate always meant I had lost again. "Troy Evans Williams," he said, making me feel uncomfortable. "It's been a while since I last saw you." "Not long enough for my taste, Mr. Buckman," I answered. "You wanted to see me, so please tell me why I'm here." "How about we have a drink, Troy?" He signaled to the country club manager to bring over the special bottle of Remy Martin Louis XIII. "I'm quite impressed, Mr. Buckman. What does a bottle cost these days? The last time I got one, it was about $25,000. If I remember right, you usually celebrate with this when you finish a big business deal." "Exactly, Troy. I just finished a very important business deal and I want to celebrate. Can I ask what you bought?" "Sure," he replied, pouring a good amount into 3 brandy glasses and giving one to me. "I just bought Camden Bank and Trust," he said, watching me for a response. "That's odd. I don't remember saying I wanted to sell it," I replied in a steady voice. David lifted the 3rd brandy glass and smiled at me with a sense of pride. "You'll need to sell, Troy. On Monday, the state banking auditor will check your bank. They will see the real financial records you've been keeping secret. We'll start an investigation after this," he said. "How did you discover the books?" I wanted to know. "Troy, I've always been ahead of you," he answered. "I'm aware of everything you've been up to. I even know about the files you have about me and my family in your desk drawer. I'm aware of all your business activities." He took a moment to light a cigar. "All your activities," he stressed, smiling as he took a puff. "That includes the Sorrent oil deal you've been working on. I got a copy of your books, and they will be very interesting to read once the news spreads." "But I have another option," Charles Buckman said. "If you give the bank to me, the real books will not be shared. There won't be an investigation, and you can leave without serious trouble." Why do you want to take over a struggling bank, Mr. Buckman? You'll have to handle the debts we built up, I said, confused. Call me sentimental, Troy. I'm just thinking about how you grew up with Stacy. I'm doing this for the memories. Think of it as a way to honor your parents. They wouldn't want their only child mixed up in bad situations. To me, you hurt my parents, Mr. Buckman, I answered, feeling my anger grow. You've tried to break me and my bank. After all you've done to me and my family, you really think you can force me to give you the bank? What will happen to my customers if they can't pay for their cars or homes? Charles Buckman responded with annoyance. What will happen is what always happens when my customers can't pay. I will take back their properties. My job is to make money. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. In nature, the strong take from the weak. That lesson was one you and your father never got. I can still fix this without you, Mr. Buckman. I have a deal that will bring in money from the Sorrent oil reserves. Once I sign that deal, I won't have any money problems anymore. The cash will go back into the bank, and no one will know anything. Even if you tell someone, you won't be able to prove anything. Charles Buckman and David Porter laughed at what I said. You won't be able to rely on the Sorrent oil reserves, Troy. What you don't know is that I've been buying every share I can find. Now I own 63% of the stock, and that number keeps rising. Soon I'll be richer than Bill Gates and Warren Buffett put together, while you'll be left behind, Troy. It's game over for you. I stayed quiet as he and David enjoyed my clear worry. I looked over at the table where a fancy chess set was waiting for a game. I had played against Charles Buckman before and lost every time. I looked closely at the chessboard with its black and white pieces standing still, waiting for a move. Charles saw where I was looking, and a small smile appeared on his face. You know, Troy, it's been a while since we last played chess. How about we make a friendly bet? If I win, David will become the president of Camden Bank and Trust, and you will need to go. And what happens if I win? I asked, taking a sip of the fancy drink. The thought seemed to surprise Charles. His face got a little red, but he quickly composed himself. If you win, you stay as president of Camden Bank and Trust. I don't want to lose my job to you, I said with a touch of defiance in my voice. He turned away and started to move the chess pieces while blocking my view. He came back, holding both his fists out. In his hands, he hit a pawn. If I guessed correctly, I would be white and get to make the first move. He waited for me to pick which hand I wanted to see. I paused for a moment before making my choice. Charles opened his hand to show me the pawn, and I tightened my grip, not showing what I would do next. I'll pick the other hand, I said. I will start as white, I said, seeing the look of surprise and annoyance on Buckman's face. He didn't expect this move from me. From the first time I played against him, he always tried to gain an upper hand. We sat down at the table, both ready for the game. David chose to sit next to his father-in-law, sticking close to him as always. I began the match by moving a pawn, and he responded with a knight's move. I noticed that he often liked to use knights at the start of our games. I moved my queen's bishop, and he placed his other knight, sticking to his usual way of playing. After 3 moves, my knight landed on his queen's bishop pawn. Check, I said softly. He stared at the board, surprised. My knight was now a danger to either his king or his queen's rook on my next turn. The usual move would be for his queen to take my knight, but that wouldn't work for him because my bishop was also a threat to his queen. Still, he looked for a way out, his eyes moving quickly across the board. I relaxed in my chair, enjoying the moment. You'll have to take my knight. That's all you can do. He shot me a sharp look, not just because of the game, but because I spoke to him like we were on the same level, not like I was better than him. I kept waiting for what I knew would happen. At last, he moved his queen and took my knight. I reacted fast and moved my bishop to take his queen. I showed him the piece, thinking about our game. It's interesting about the other game we played, I said. You had another queen and it still didn't save you. What do you mean, Troy? He asked. I'm talking about your queen, the spy you sent to my office, Janet Temple. My secret agent I had to deal with, he replied. I saw him slowly trying to move his king's bishop into play. I started getting ready for what would happen next. It took me some time to understand who your queen really was, I said. But when I figured it out, it was simple to stop her. All I needed to do was give her wrong information, and I knew it would reach you. I moved my queen into play to begin our match. You see, Chuck, there are two sets of records. The fake records show that the bank is in danger. The public records show that the bank is doing well. I tricked you into believing that my bank was in trouble because I knew how you would respond. Don't you always say, the big always eats the small, Chuck? He looked surprised when I called him by that nickname. I moved my queen across the board to take his king's rook. Once more, I calmly said, check. I've known for almost 2 years that Janet was telling you things, Chuck. I realized you had her get close to me to make me trust her. I created some situations where I shared true information with you through Janet. After you stopped my plans with her information, you believed her completely. Sometimes I would give her a true piece of info for you to enjoy. That kept you interested. Buckman moved his king to safety into the next row. I then moved my queen across the board, taking his queen's rook with me. With your queen and both rooks gone, you're not in a good spot, Chuck, I said. But let's get back to Janet. You trusted her reports, and she trusted the details I gave her. I kept changing the fake records to show a slow decline in the bank's value. Janet would check everything on her computer and also look at my computer before sharing it with you. She wasn't able to do a real audit, so I kept giving you misleading information. This gave me time to fix the problems you created. What was tough was the many steps I had to follow to save enough money for what I needed. I would spend every dollar I could to make a small profit on a stock, then take that money back to the market and save what I earned. Janet always seemed to find out a bit too late to stop me from going ahead with my plans. It must have been annoying for you to watch me slip away day after day. For every win I had, you probably heard I lost 4 or 5 times in other trades. You could check the daily stock trading, and what you saw matched what Janet told you. He slowly moved his bishop, and I took one of his knights in return. He then moved his other knight, trying to put pressure on my king. I started taking his pawns using my queen. Listen, Chuck, it won't matter when the state auditor arrives on Monday. The real records will be shown, your info will be looked at, and they will check things out. The only proof you have is a computer printout from Janet and what you and David heard from someone else. There won't be any other evidence. The computers from Janet's office and mine are gone, replaced with new ones that display only the right information. You won't find the old hard drives that had the wrong data you depended on. The audit will take around a week, and the final report will clear my name and my bank. Now my rooks were free as we neared the end of the game. I captured his king's bishop. So you see, Chuck, your plan is going as well as your chess game. You didn't think I could do it, and now you see the results. Buckman's last strong piece fell. All he had left besides his king was his queen's bishop. I moved my king to a safe spot, making sure his bishop couldn't help him. With my queen and my rooks, I started to push his king back. Step by step, Buckman still wouldn't give up, and I didn't want him to. I wanted his king trapped, and at last, we had reached that point. My next move would mean I would win, and he understood that. His face turned red with anger from all the times I had won against him that night. So, Chuck, I think I've beat you in chess for the first time. The lesson here is to never underestimate how far your daughter's boyfriend will go to impress you, even if it means losing some chess games. I guess I'm glad I didn't join you and your friends on that hunting trip in Alaska. The idea of spending a week with you makes me uneasy. I'm so glad David didn't mind being around you. David jumped toward me, ready to say something, but then he noticed my face. I think he understood that if we were going to fight, I wouldn't hold back until someone got hurt. He wasn't up for that. I looked at him for a bit and then went on. I know you wanted me to take care of Janet, Chuck, but which one of you thought of sending her to me, you or David? Neither of them answered. I guess I'll never learn how that happened. Maybe one of you is responsible. Maybe both of you separately suggested to Janet that she should try to start a friendship, or maybe Janet decided to do it on her own. What I do know is how much it hurt me again, bringing back memories of a time that had once caused me sadness. It was a clever trick to keep me guessing while you made your plans against me. Not only would I have to face my pain again, but I would also feel the shame every single day. Does it bother you, Chuck, that I can move forward and do well? That just by being here I remind you of the decisions you've made? Usually your anger would worry me because even though I stopped your plan this time, I know you could come up with another one. But this is where having someone like Janet really helps, I kept explaining to Buckman. I'm sure she told you about the big oil reserves that my bank is counting on to bounce back. Just think about it, a huge oil field with millions of barrels that hasn't been used yet. Sounds amazing, right, Chuck? And it is amazing, Chuck. Once again, I gave you wrong information through Janet. I built the Sorrent oil reserves from nothing. You were so focused on trusting her words that you didn't check the facts. Why would you? I wasn't clever enough to trick you. I had never acted in a sneaky way before. You knew I couldn't afford to make a mistake, so everything I put money into had to be real. Because of me, you saw a dream of a great chance. By putting in $100 million, you imagined making billions in return. The fact that you tried to bring me down was just the final touch. You looked over all the reports about the test fields and the engineering plans that said we would succeed. Those reports came from my desk and were given to you by Janet. They were just ideas I made up. They only existed in my thoughts and my writing. Here's a simpler version of your text. I gathered a lot of papers and kept pushing you to take a risk until you finally jumped in. Through my work with many global companies, I found a few shady business people who helped me trick you into giving me a part of the deal. Together, we set up some fake companies to make it work. Every time you bought Sorrent stock, your money came straight back to me. I made a fake bidding war that kept pushing the stock price higher, causing you to lose your money even quicker. The loans you took out made the price of Buckman Incorporated stock go down. I bought it for less using your own cash. Through a network of companies and funds, I now own most of your company, Chuck. Charles Buckman's face changed a lot. Instead of the angry look he had before, he now looked surprised as I kept going. In a month, there will be a new board of directors at Buckman Incorporated, and I will choose each member myself. The first thing we will do is remove you, Chuck, with a vote against you. The second thing will be to vote for me as the chair of the board. The third change will be to rename the company to Harrison Williams Incorporated to honor my father. I know you will still have plenty of money from your investments, Chuck, but your legacy is lost. That's what really matters to you. Your time as the most important person in this town has passed. Your fancy house, the expensive cars you drive, and all the land you own are really owned by your business for tax reasons. Soon, it will all be mine. Charles seemed shocked when I pointed out what I knew about his situation. David watched in disbelief as his father-in-law's front fell apart. You can try as hard as you want to get officials to look into me, but it won't bring your money back. I did my best to keep myself safe, and I'm still finding ways to protect myself. You will get older and feel bitter about not being able to figure out my plans. The power you used to have will disappear, and you will be left by yourself, feeling angry. I finished my drink and leaned closer to Charles Buckman, who was now gasping for air. I moved my queen into the right spot. You see, Chuck, you've always missed the point about your business idea. It's not the big fish that eat the small ones. It's the fast ones that outsmart the slow ones. With one finger, I gently knocked over his king. Checkmate, I said. Then I walked out of the room, leaving everyone else there. What happened next was quite a scene, and the town talked about it for months. I really did get rid of Charles Buckman and David Porter. Once they stepped out of their safe space, they started to turn against each other, blaming one another for their problems. Mrs. Buckman ended her marriage when some things became public. She then fought to take a lot of money from her husband in the divorce. As I thought would happen, Charles tried to get the police to look into me, but it didn't work. When he lost his money, he also lost his power in politics. People didn't look up to him anymore because he didn't have money to support his position. As his financial situation got worse, his friendships fell apart too. It was sad to watch him try to act like an important person when everyone viewed him as a joke. One morning the town was stunned to hear that he had died, and it was said to be suicide. His funeral was small and only his family was there. Stacy and her sister came to town for the funeral and left right after. She didn't reach out to me, and I could tell she was upset with me about her father's passing. Even so, David Porter tried to interrupt the funeral. He wanted Stacy to change her mind about the divorce she had started while in California. When that didn't work, he told everyone about his relationship with Janet Temple. Yes, my Janet Temple. They left for a place they did not share. Power can be very attractive, Henry Kissinger once said, and I believe that too. 23 months after I won my fight against Charles Buckman, many nice women were still interested in me. I knew very well that I had not become better looking or that my character had suddenly changed. No, people saw me as a way to gain money, safety, and respect. Did that bother me? Not at all. I understood the situation, and so did the women. We met each other's need for company, and I made sure that our relationships didn't get too deep. Any money involved was small and only lasted a short time. In my simple life, that was all I needed to keep moving forward. Sometimes, late at night, I would quietly leave my sleeping friend and look out from my third-floor window at the calm courtyard of the city. I was still looking for something or someone to trust. I watched over my city, lit softly by the moon, which was changing and growing. As the head of Harrison Williams Enterprises, I was working to bring different factories to Camden. I wanted to change its image as a town that relied on just one company. By giving out business loans at low interest rates and convincing state leaders to offer tax cuts, many companies jumped at the chance. This caused Camden to thrive. At first, I thought Buckman's Financial Plaza would soon look like the empty ghost town that downtown had turned into, a sign of Charles Buckman's failure. But a study showed that it was a good idea to let Buckman Financial Plaza keep running and even grow. People really wanted to have choices. Take my classmate, Fred Carter, who ran a Ford dealership. He would have hated having to bank only at Camden Bank and Trust. But when he was given the choice of banking at Buckman's Savings and Loans too, he was happy. For me, it didn't matter where the money went as long as it came back to me. I still enjoyed some nice moments that made me feel good about myself. The Camden Country Club changed its mind about kicking me out and asked me to join again. I guess news got around that Harrison Williams Enterprises was thinking about putting a landfill next to the golf course. Some people believed my thoughts could influence the board members at Harrison Williams. Whenever I went back to the country club, I could sense some tension and annoyance. But as long as they stayed out of my way, I stayed out of theirs. To stir things up a little, I decided to encourage more diverse membership at the club. I also turned the club study into a daycare center after fixing it up. Every night I ate dinner at the club to show my importance. I let Thomas Clark, the manager of the country club, make all the decisions. He followed my advice to change the restaurant into a top-notch place. Now I had a nice spot to take my business partners for an excellent meal, a round of golf, or both. One of my best memories was playing golf with the woman who was the chief operating officer of a company I wanted to work with. She hit her second shot on the long 13th hole and sent the ball way off course. Somehow, we ended up together in the trees and discovered a new way to have fun on the golf course. At least I finally enjoyed playing golf. I was starting to see why people liked it, even if it was in a different way. The same leader came back to play again, and guess what? She hit her ball right back into the same bushes, bringing us back into the woods again. Later, we had a relaxing dinner at the club. We joked about our game of golf when Stacy walked in. I was truly surprised. I noticed the piece of food I was holding on my fork had dropped while I stared at her. My friend frowned at me, confused by my sudden quiet, as he turned to see the interesting woman coming toward us. I wasn't the only one who noticed her. The whole dining room got quiet as everyone turned their attention to Stacy. I hadn't seen or heard from her in 2 years. Now I had to deal with the trouble that came from what happened to her dad and David. I got ready for our meeting, hoping to handle it well. I owed her that much. She looked at me the whole time as she walked closer. I wasn't sure if she was ignoring my dinner guest on purpose, but it seemed like Stacy didn't care that I wasn't alone or that we were in a busy dining room. Now she stood next to my chair, looking down at me, and I braced myself for what was coming. Then she knelt beside me and said, "I made a big mistake a long time ago. I'm here to fix it, if you'll let me. Troy Williams, will you marry me?" Her voice was full of real feeling, and her face showed it too. No matter what we had been through, she still loved me. She was ready to risk it all for me. In a flash, I thought about if I could be as understanding as she was. Could I move past the hurt and be with the one woman I had always wanted? Could I put my pride aside to accept her offer, even with everything that happened before? Did my parents' hopes for me to move forward sit heavily in my heart? I noticed the people around us. My dinner partner showed different feelings: surprise, envy, and a curious look as she watched what was happening. I was back in a spot I knew well, feeling the weight of the decision I had to make. This is probably how Stacy felt long ago when I put her in a tough spot. How could I feel both reasons to say yes and reasons to say no at the same time? My heart really wanted to say yes, but my fears pushed me to say no. Now I was in the same position, feeling the pressure to answer in front of others, just like I had done to Stacy years back. No. I didn't know if I really said it until I saw Stacy's calm expression break. Tears started to form in her eyes. She got up, keeping her pride as she left the dining area with her head up, not paying attention to the people watching her. At that moment, I felt more ashamed of myself than ever. Whispers filled the room as I quietly waved to the manager, Thomas Clark, to come over to my table. "Yes, Mr. Williams," he said. "Thomas, it's hard to stay private with social media these days. Please tell everyone that I will be very upset if I hear any talk about this on Twitter, Facebook, or anywhere else that might embarrass Miss Buckman," I said softly to him. "I get it, Mr. Williams. I'll handle it," he replied. He walked away from my table and went straight to Fred Carter's table. After talking for a moment, I noticed Fred turn pale and start to delete something from his phone. When he was done, he glanced at me with a worried look. Thomas Clark had already gone to serve another table. In no time, everyone knew. Those who dared to talk about the event would face my anger. After what I had been through, no one wanted to challenge me. I focused again on my dinner partner, who looked surprised. "Well, I've never had that happen on a dinner date before," she said, gazing into my eyes. "Really?" I took the last sip of my wine. "It happens to me a lot," I said, trying not to show the mix of feelings inside me. As the night went on, we sat together quietly in my kitchen. We both knew we didn't have a future, but our bond felt real. "I think I'll get a taxi to the airport," she said. "I know when it's time to go." "Why are you in such a hurry?" I asked. "I'm not in a hurry, but I was hurt by that woman treating me badly with her offer. That's why I brought you home. There are 3 reasons I see that we won't be together in the future. First, she really loves you if she is willing to say it so openly. Second, I could never feel that strongly about any man." I just nodded, understanding she was right. "You said there were 3 reasons. What's the third?" I asked. "Everyone could see how much she loves you. I noticed how you looked at her, too. She felt the same way. When you truly care about someone, you don't start something you know you can't finish. I already feel like I've lost this battle." I watched the taxi pull away, thinking about what she said and considering what to do next. I just had to wait a little less than a day. Stacy came back to the country club while I was eating by myself. She knelt down and asked me to be with her again. Once again, I was caught off guard by a mix of feelings as I faced this surprise. Somehow I found a way to say no, and my answer hurt Stacy as she walked away, trying to stay calm. The room filled with chatter and energy. I called over Thomas Clark, asking him to help with the situation like he did before. I knew I couldn't stop the gossip, but I hoped to keep it to just our town. On the 3rd night, the dining room was full of people excited for Stacy to come. When she arrived, she asked me again. Stacy looked sad as I turned her down again, even though everyone else enjoyed the show. This time, I didn't have to tell Thomas to handle the crowd. He was already doing it well. The next evening, Stacy came back and left feeling upset. This went on every night, week after week. I was amazed at how she kept coming back, hoping for a different answer, but always leaving with a heavy heart. Her friends told her to give up and encouraged her to find someone else. She didn't listen to their advice. Some people even came up to me and suggested I stop going to the country club to make things easier. I chose to ignore them as well. One Friday evening, as I waited for her to show up, the excitement about our strange situation began to fade. The crowd was starting to forget about her hopeful visits. Then she walked in right on time, still looking nice and keeping her cheerful spirit. As she started to kneel, I lifted my hand to pause her. "Stacy, it's been a year since you came back and started asking me to be with you. I say no every time, but you keep trying. How long will you keep this up?" She seemed surprised, but quickly gained her composure. "Troy, I will keep coming every night, hoping you'll see that we should be together. It doesn't matter if it's tonight, tomorrow, or even years later. I'll do everything I can to fix this." Her honest feeling touched me deeply. "You know, you haven't had much luck with this," I said, trying to make her smile. She ignored my joke and said, "I just need to get it right once, and then we can be happy together forever." "I might not know a lot, but I can try harder," I answered. Before she could think about my words, I got out of my chair and knelt in front of her. I reached into my pocket and pulled out a small, fancy box. Stacy gasped, "Oh my gosh! Troy!" Tears of happiness filled her eyes as I opened the box to show her the ring. "Stacy Ellen Buckman." "Yes!" she shouted. "Will you—" "Yes! Be my wife! Yes! 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 And marry me! Yes! 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 Oh my God! Yes, I'll marry you!" She pulled me up and hugged me tightly. The room burst into applause, and she whispered, "Thank you, Troy. Thank you for making me so happy." Even with all her joy, I carefully placed the ring on her finger, and this made everyone around us cheer even louder. Soon, her friends pulled her away to look at the ring and start talking about the wedding. I pulled Thomas aside and asked him to add everyone's bill to my tab, even for Fred Carter. I asked him to take out a special bottle of cognac I had received as a gift. I wanted to make a toast with my future wife. It was time to look forward to what was coming. I saw her walking towards me, holding a big yellow item. I prepared myself just in case she pointed it my way, but I was surprised when she just held it out for me to take. "Peace," she said with a big smile. "It's actually peach," I told her gently, making sure to say it clearly. She nodded happily and said, "Peace," again, full of confidence. Then she turned and walked back to her basket of fresh fruit, letting me know more peaches were coming. I felt the peach in my hand. I squeezed it softly and breathed in its sweet smell. It was ripe and ready to eat. I dropped the fuzzy peaches into a bucket of cold water and ice. I had used this bucket before to keep a few bottles of beer cool as a treat for finishing the harvest. Then I took out my pocket knife. I sliced the fruit in half and then into quarters, taking out the pit in the middle. I cut the pieces into smaller bites so my daughter Karen could enjoy the sweet fruit. Just as I finished, Karen came back with another peach, holding it out to me. "Look, Daddy, a peach!" she said excitedly. Next to us, Stacy couldn't help but laugh. I glanced at her and smiled before turning my focus back to Karen. "Peach," I said again to fix my mistake, and handed her a small piece of the fruit. Her eyes lit up as she took a bite, and juice dripped down her face. She always found a way to leave bits of food uneaten, and they would stick to my shirt. "Don't give her too much food. It's almost time for dinner," Stacy said to me. "I won't, sweetheart," I replied, sipping my drink again. "And no more beers, or you won't be able to help tonight." "Sweetheart, she's only 3. She doesn't understand that yet," I told Stacy. "It's never too soon to start good habits. I don't want her to say something she shouldn't say in front of others." "All right, I understand what you mean. But as long as I can keep enjoying your peach, you can have one of mine." I gave her a slice of peach, and a playful smile came across her face. "I plan to share my peach with you all evening," she said happily. "Just remember, I have to empty these baskets at the farmer's market early in the morning." "Troy, that means we should start our evening early so you can be ready for the morning." The look on her face showed me she had more ideas for later. "But to help you, why not call one of those kids you hired and ask them to help with that task tomorrow?" I feel like something important is about to happen. I smiled back at her and then looked at the land around our house. When we got married, I was happy to stay at the bank building, but Stacy was sure that she didn't want to raise a family there. So I called my old family friend, Mrs. Fuller. She was having a hard time taking care of her farm by herself, and her daughter wanted her to move out west. So I bought Fuller's farm and a few other pieces of land. This way, I could be a gentleman farmer without being too busy with chores. For all my businesses, I had good managers to take care of my property. I still watched over everything to make sure it ran smoothly, but it didn't take all my time anymore. I started to learn about how to rotate crops, manage water for plants, and keep pests away. Stacy was hard at work fixing up our new house, and soon she told me we needed to change one of the rooms into a nursery. Then came Karen, and all the worries we had about our marriage disappeared. Funny enough, our joy seemed to annoy some people in the neighborhood who had seen what we went through. They didn't get why I would want to marry someone who had turned me down at first, or why Stacy would choose to marry me after I had said no to her. I could explain our feelings in detail, but it's easier to say that I love her, she loves me, and we came together when it mattered most. I sleep well now, without the worries from my past. My parents wanted the best for me, and I have found that happiness. I have moved on from previous relationships that used to bother me. The only one who could hurt me now is Stacy, but I believe in my heart that it won't happen again. We learned important lessons through our struggles. As I saw Karen bringing me another peach, a feeling of understanding came over me. Karen climbed onto my lap, her sweet eyes meeting mine as she gave me the fruit. "Peach, Daddy." I kissed her gently on the forehead. "Peach," I replied. Hey, audience! If you like this video and want to keep up with more thrilling stories, make sure to subscribe to Prince Cheating Tales and hit the notification bell. You don't want to miss out on our upcoming adventures. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next wonderful story.